I call Adrian Ruahi.
Tēnā koe e te hea mana o te komiti o te whare. It's a pleasure to take a call on this, to speak on this bill tonight, sir. And I want to talk about, or speak about new clause 75A. But first of all, I want to reflect on the existing clause 75 and 76, because I think it's very relevant to this new clause of appointment of principals. Sir, clause 75 of the Act outlines the function and powers of the Board of Trustees, and section 76 outlines the role of the principal. And I remember being, as a member of the School Board of Trustees, having to get my head around these two clauses and how they impact on each other. And that's why I raised them together in relation to this new clause that has been proposed. One of the things that the principals are, and it says here in the Act, they shall, a principal is the school's board's chief executive, and it goes on to say that they shall comply with the board's general policy direction. My issue with having the new clause here to be able to, for a number of boards to be able to appoint the same principal is this. Those two clauses establishes the function and relationship. The relationship is actually between one school. And my problem with this new clause is that around the professional leadership of a particular school and how one person is able to do that in one school with one community, because quite often they are not only the professional leader of their school, they are the leader, one of the leaders of their community. My issue is how does that impact on that a particular community? Say if you have in my electorate, which is 36,000 square kilometres, most of it rural and provincial, how could one principal appointed by a number of boards within a rural area be the professional leader of each of those schools, as well as a leader in their community, as established under these two clauses? That's my question, because I don't believe that we have seen enough or heard enough as to why it's even necessary, or two, how that will actually function in a way that enhances those particular communities. That's one of the things about schools in New Zealand, is that schools play a very important, they are quite often the hub of any community. And I'm struggling to understand how in any particular community that they would be able to function with a principal that's not always present. How the relationships developed within each of those communities because there's high expectations on principals, no matter where they are. But can one imagine how difficult it might be for a principal to develop those one-on-one relationships with their parents in 2, 3 or more communities? I have a problem with that. I think if one were to ask parents of children at a number of schools in provincial and rural New Zealand, would they like to share their principal with a number of the schools? I think the answer would be no, because like other important positions in their community, people like to have good relationships with the principals of their school. Another issue which is, I came up in this part of the bill is the opening hours of schools and the flexibility there. Mr. Chair.
Adrian Ruahi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good choice, Mr. Chairman.
So the opening hours of school, the flexibility around all of that, how that impacts again on communities and on families. And in the second reading, sir, I mentioned about what would be the impact on a family not very well off, families living in poverty, working families that are living in poverty that have to rearrange their schedules because they have 2 or 3 children going to 2 or 3 different schools with different opening hours, and then everything else that families have to cope with, whether they're living in poverty or not, actually. I don't think that's the fundamental issue here, but I've spoken to a number of families about this, and they just don't support it. And sometimes I think with this part of the bill, are we fixing something that really doesn't exist? And so that's my other question on this. So for this part, that's all I want to comment on. But I do hope to take other calls through this debate. Thank you.
Catherine.